worked as a janitor at Ridgeway High for nearly 20 years. He liked the quiet of the building after the students and teachers had gone home. There was something peaceful about mopping empty hallways and hearing the distant hum of fluorescent lights. But recently, that peace had been shattered. It started last Monday, a chilly October evening. As Mark polished the lockers near the gymnasium, he thought he heard the faint echo of footsteps. Turning, he found only the darkened hall behind him. He shook it off, probably just his imagination. By Wednesday, it was harder to ignore. While cleaning a classroom, he saw movement in the corner of his eye. A shadow slipped past the window on the door. Heart pounding, Mark stepped into the hallway. "Hello?" he called, his voice trembling slightly. The only answer was the low groan of the building settling. Thursday night, the power went out. Mark had just wheeled his cart into the cafeteria when the lights flickered and died, plunging him into darkness. He cursed under his breath and fumbled for his flashlight. The beam cut through the pitch black, but it only seemed to make the shadows deeper. As he swept the light across the room, he caught sight of a figure standing at the far end, tall and featureless, like a silhouette burned into his vision. "Who's there?" Mark demanded. Though his voice wavered, the figure didn't move, didn't speak. When Mark took a step closer, it vanished, leaving only silence behind. By Friday, Mark was ready to quit. But quitting wasn't that simple. He needed the job. He told himself it was just the stress, the loneliness of working nights getting to him. He resolved to finish his shift and then maybe talk to his boss about switching to daytime hours. That night, as he mopped the science wing, Mark's phone buzzed in his pocket. He frowned. It was nearly midnight. Pulling it out, he saw a message from an unknown number saying, "You're not alone." The mop clattered to the floor as Mark's hands went numb. His first thought was to leave, to get out of the building. But his keys were in the janitor's closet on the other side of the school. He began moving quickly down the hall, his footsteps echoing too loudly in his ears. As he rounded a corner, he froze. The figure was back, standing in front of the janitor's closet, its head tilted slightly, almost as if it were watching him. Mark's flashlight flickered, and the figure disappeared again, leaving the hallway eerily still. Gathering what courage he had left, Mark sprinted for the closet. He yanked the door open and slammed it behind him, pressing his back against the cold metal. His keys dangled from a hook on the wall, and he grabbed them with shaking hands. But before he could open the door, something scratched against it. Slow and deliberate. Mark held his breath. The scratching stopped, replaced by a low whisper. He couldn't make out the words, but it was coming from inside the closet. Slowly, Mark turned the flashlight toward the far corner of the room. The beam illuminated shelves of cleaning supplies, a broom leaning against the wall, and a face, pale, eyeless, and grinning. The door slammed shut behind him, and Mark's scream echoed through the school. By Monday morning, no one could find him. His cart was abandoned in the hallway, his phone on the floor near the janitor's closet. The principal called the police, but they turned up nothing. Ridgeway High reopened the next day, students filling the halls once more. But late at night, when the building is empty, some say you can still hear the faint sound of footsteps in the science wing and the whisper of a mop sliding across the floor.